So am I right in saying that you're the lead of C3?
Yeah, the crime-free programme for the West Midlands Police, yeah.
Can you just quickly explain what that is?
Okay, so the West Midlands is quite a big suburban area, so we've always had an issue with sort of residential burglary and theft through drug abuse and things like that. So it's looking at taking a bit of a different approach to how we punish but rehabilitate people at the same time, bringing in all kinds of different strategies, drugs treatment, employment and training, restorative justice, procedural fairness, that type of stuff. And sort of keeping the principles of what we've done in the past, but maybe looking at something a little bit different moving forward for people that have been in and out of prison for sort of half of their adult lives, basically.
Have you ever worked on like a restorative project before as an officer?
But when we started the crime-free team, we didn't have the luxury of Remedi within the force. So I'd heard little bits about restorative justice. We did try to do some sessions ourselves, which were okay, but Remedi's clearly a much more professionalised approach to it. So we've seen a big uptake in the amount of people willing, victims and defendants willing to take part, because it's just a more professionalised process now.
Yeah. Do you see a change in people that go through that process?
Yeah, so for me, I see it twofold. So restorative justice does two things. I think that having worked within the police for 19 years now, a lot of it mainly within CID, sentencing is quite a scientific process. It's based on precedent, it's based on law, it's based on textbooks, as it should be. You fit into a certain bracket depending on the seriousness of what you've done. But as a victim, you're not really involved in that. Why would you be? So sometimes it's difficult for you, a victim, to feel part of that process of seeing somebody being punished for what they do. So what Crime Free has managed to do is, I think, give those victims a bit of a voice. So we're not sending people to prison straight away. We're saying, well, let's put that sentence on hold while we try and do something with them in the community instead. But we need the victims to understand that. We need to speak to them, explain that process to them. So when they support that, the general feedback from them is two things. I didn't think the circumstances of why my house was broken into or why my property was stolen was because of that. I thought I was targeted. It's like, well, no, that's often not the case. But two, I've had an influence in stopping that happen to somebody else. Because through meeting that individual, am I stopping them from going on and doing it again? 9 times out of 10, yes. So that's on the victim side. On the defendant side, there's two things that can happen. When somebody comes into crime free, it's a lot easier to work with them. Generally, we get them off methadone. We sort their drugs treatment. They're a lot more lucid. They've had time to sort of understand their own issues, to be able to understand what's going on around them. So when they sit with Remedi for the first time, they're really not just saying yes for the sake of something to get a prison sentence down or whatever. They're actually understanding why they're doing it, which I know sounds really silly, but 9 times out of 10 they don't when they're just going through the criminal justice process. It either really shocks them as to why they've done it and really puts them off wanting to do it again. Also gives them a sense of pride and sometimes being able to face up to what they've done wrong. So it's not making excuses, it's not about making them always feel better, but understanding what the problem was. We have had occasions when, unfortunately, the crime-free programme doesn't stop them going back to prison, but that confrontation with a victim of that crime type means they won't go back to that crime. They'll find other ways to get by and feed an addiction or something like that. So yeah, it definitely has that effect on both the victim side and the defendant side.